Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 62, titled Meet the Devs, Meet the Devs, come out and meet the Devs, hot dogs, green grass, all at the Rock, by all the teams in the world. The Devils owners have a lot of cash. They're spending it like, I don't even know where that song's going. Nick, welcome to the State of the Fan Address. Nick, episode 62. This special episode is all powered by Nova Product Design from Primetime Radio on the Primetime Radio Network. I have a new headset. That is the new thing I'm doing tonight. I have a new headset because my other headset broke. It's getting snug. I'm breaking it in. And I just want to welcome all the Devils fans, maybe Mets fans that are tuning in to the podcast. Nick, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. We were talking about we wanted to keep doing these pre-podcast talks, kind of a different side of things. And I think the only thing that we could talk about in this pre-podcast talk is I needed the host of the Let's Go Mets podcast on the Let's Go Devils podcast, so we can talk about the Devils owners looking into buying your other favorite franchise.
I know. I didn't realize how much money these guys have. I mean, right now it's a time to buy, because everything is just low. Now, before we get to that, they had just put a whole sum of money amount, minority ownership of the Pittsburgh Steelers, 5%, pretty much taking over David Tepper's interest of the team. Basically what happened was David Tepper, who is now the owner of the Carolina Panthers of the NFL. This is the same David Tepper that used to work and have an office in Short Hills, New Jersey. Big hedge fund guy, very successful, left New Jersey, went to South Beach, took the company with him for obvious reasons. But when he did buy the Carolina Panthers, he had to divest his interest with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and now the David Blitzer and Joshua Harris, Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment, I'm assuming, have their interest there. But getting back to the question about Harris and Blitzer buying the New York Mets, I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. I mean, with the last 5-6 years, with the exception of one playoff run that only lasted 5 games, I go to the Mets, believe it or not, to get away from the Devils, because it's like it's kind of that bridge between the off season, right? And then it's like, okay, what happens if they do buy the team? Are they going to start doing some great deals like, hey, you get 25% off if you get both Devils and Mets season tickets? Or do we get a helicopter ride from Prudential Center to Citi Field? Because you know that if you're a driver like me, that's a heck of a commute to get to a Mets game from Jersey side, right? You get stuck on the Triborough Bridge, and then you get stuck on, somewhere in Corona or Flushing or Northern Boulevard. But I don't know, Nick. I don't know how I feel about it. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But I bet you SNY is part of this equation, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's the X factor when it comes. That's why Devils fans should really care. I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, if they buy the Mets, then they're gonna, the owners are gonna ignore the Devils even more." And I feel like when they fired Ray Shero, they showed that they are as invested in the Devils as they are the Sixers. And honestly, I had to look at the numbers, but they've already made. So they bought the Devils for $347 million. The last time I checked, I think they're worth close to $500 million. So they already made 60% return on investment, or no, that's a little high. Maybe like 45% return on investment. So that's something that you're going to be interested in and something you're going to be very happy that's part of your portfolio. But the SNY is the game changer here. And I don't know, Sam, if I'm somebody who wants – I don't want the Devils to move to SNY if Harris Blitzer owns it, because I think they're going to try to push the 76ers into this market a little bit more, especially where my hometown is. My hometown's in Toms River, down by the Jersey Shore. My parents still live there. And I think when I go home and I got to put on the MSG Plus or Plus or Triple Plus, whatever the Devils end up being on, at least MSG has those programs. But SNY, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they only have one or two. If that's the case, if there's a 76ers game on and a Mets game on, I don't think the Devils are going to be on TV at all.
Well, it could be worse, Nick. I mean, we could be the New York Islanders right now and don't know where we're going to be playing. Are they going back to Barclays? Did you hear?
I saw something that James Dolan could be jumping in to help the Islanders. That might be. I think I saw it in the Post. It might have just been a Larry Brooks, a piece he just wrote to consider it. But I saw in the New York Post something about Larry or James Dolan helping the Islanders. And if I'm the Islanders, I think I might rather play in the New Jersey Devils parking lot rather than having James Dolan have his hands on my team at all.
Yeah, or maybe at Central Park, at the rink.
Yeah, I mean, I'd literally rather put ice over Rucker Park and play there than have the James Dolan have his team hands on it. There's plenty of places to play in New York. Is the point? You could get creative. You don't need James Dolan's help. You need him to stay far, far away from your team. But speaking of far, far away from your team, Sam, let's go back to the Mets. Your ownership situation has been quite flux since the Bernie Madoff thing in the first place, and it kind of threw everything for a loop for everybody involved in that situation. But the owners still held on to the team for a while. Now they're finally thinking of getting rid of it. Now that's probably at its peak investment point, especially with the coronavirus, probably making baseball. I mean, they could become the fourth sport after it's all said and done. So is there any other option besides Harris Blitzer? I know you said that you're not a huge fan of them buying it, but it seems like the only other option I've heard of is one Alex Rodriguez. So, I mean, is there any other option that you would like for the Mets?
In terms of ownership?
Yeah.
I want somebody that wants to win. I think Stephen Cohen really wants to win at all costs. Okay. I want that fiery owner. I mean, look, I know we make fun of the Wilpons. People call them, like myself, I call them the coupons, right? But in all fairness, it was kind of unfair. There are a lot of good qualities about the Wilpons. They want to win, but they don't have the funds to do it. They're in a market where you have to spend money, okay? And then the biggest team, you probably well-known brand around the world, the New York Yankees, is like, one borough over, right? And I think that really, if the Wilpons had money, I don't think they'd be that bad. But when you make stupid deals that get a lot of publicity, like the Bobby Bonilla Day, okay, or
that's coming up, right? It's July 1st.
And all the dumb injuries of some of the players that they have signed, like it's like bad luck. A wild boar derails your highest paid player for a season or two. You can't make this stuff up. Or I remember that trade. Some people listening in remember Scott Kazmir at the time was like the biggest thing prospect, and you trade him for Victor Zambrano, and then a few games later, Victor Zambrano, he's pitching, and suddenly he's holding his arm, and he runs off the field. That's what I'm talking about. And it's like, here, they missed out on Hideki Matsui, so who do they get? Kaz Matsui, sell a bill of goods to us. This is about 20 years ago.
Oh, my God, that was 20
I'm ready
years
for
ago.
a new ownership. Yeah, well, I think about like maybe 2004, and then there's talking about the Kareem Garcia, and I forgot which outfielder tandem, a platoon is what they called it. And I remember they got Mike Cameron and Doug McCavage. Like, I mean, okay, that's the past. But if the Devils ownership group does indeed buy them, I'm worried about SNY. I hope they just keep it as is and just add more content. But, it was voted by WFAN. It was not WFAN, but WFAN.com put something out that the broadcast trio of Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, and Keith Hernandez, I think out of whatever, was ranked number one by the fans of all Major League Baseball as the best crew. I forgot what survey. Yeah, so, and one of the things I liked about the Wilpons is they get sports talk radio. The Wilpons listen to WFAN religiously. They listen to sports talk radio all the time. They let their guys be candid and speak their mind, such as, for example, when you compare the Yes Network and you compare SNY, one of the things, and again, this is not me Yankee bashing. I'm being serious, Nick. Just in full disclosure, I'm actually really mean this. I always felt that the Yes Network guys were the Yankees PR spin machine sometimes, a little bit too much, but these guys are great broadcasters, don't get me wrong. Whereas SNY, you have Gary Cohen talking about Bernie Madoff, okay? They're talking about other stuff. When A-Rod was having his issues with the Yankees, they kind of talked about it, but not really. If that was SNY or Gary Cohen and all them, they have like free reign to say what's really on their mind, which is, to me, great content. It's when the guys can just speak their mind. It's entertaining. And I just hope, whoever's the new owner of SNY, they just don't taint that formula. That formula works. That's why SNY is still around. That's why a lot of their, Mets games are very popular, even though sometimes the team really pisses you off, But that's what I worried about because, I thought the Devils had a great thing, Lou Lamoriello, and it's a total culture change. The New Jersey Devils from the previous regime, two regimes, right? So I know sometimes change is good, and I'm over that right now. I am drinking the Tom Fitzgerald Kool-Aid, so to speak, right now at the moment. But when you got something number one here, the content, all that, I just hope they grab it and make a lot of money, but don't start meddling into stuff. You can add some teams, I get it, but right now, the other thing too, I don't know. I think that this is pure speculation. I think their minority interest in the Pittsburgh Steelers is kind of like a get to know me as an owner for the league for the future purchase of possibly the Jets. Only reason why I say that, and it's just pure speculation, is NFL rules mandates that if you're going to own another sports professional franchise, it has to be a certain amount of radius. They're all together. I believe that's correct, Nick. That's what I think, and I don't know if Woody Johnson, they're going to sell it, but I don't know. But it just seems like they're buying everything right now.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
And the NFL has interesting rules. There's ways around them, but technically the rules say that if you own an NFL team, you could only own other sports teams in that market. You can't own things in other markets. I'm assuming that minority ownership does not come into play in that. So I think that Blitzer and Harris are fine. I know that Stan Kroenke, the owner of the Los Angeles Rams, his family owns the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche, but technically it's his wife. Because I was doing some research on who owns 3 teams. It's not a lot of people. Surprisingly, you'd think that the billionaires would just own everything, but there are certain rules that make it kind of annoying. But yeah, Stan Kroenke was one of the only ones, but he doesn't technically because his wife technically owns the Nuggets and the Avalanche. So it's just very strange when you see one entity start to own multiple sports venues, especially like. I mean, when you think about it, like he still has a day job. Like that's where he makes most of his money is as hedge fund manager, and that it's a very demanding thing. But so is owning a sports team, and especially when, and we're going to talk to Alex Chauncey about this with the HockeyWriters. The report just came out about how and it's Larry Brooks. So Larry Brooks is a Hall of Famer, but he hasn't been favorable to the Devils in years past. And that's being nice about it. I actually, Sam, I probably shouldn't say this on the podcast, but I'm going to because I'm me. I actually try to get Larry Brooks on the show. I sent a couple things out, sent a couple feelers, and I just wanted to kind of see what his thoughts on that were. But he did not respond. So I guess he didn't feel like he wanted to just leave it as it was. But reading that article by Larry Brooks. And showing that, I don't know if you read it or not, Sam, but basically it says that different people are running different parts of the GM search and the coaching search. But like the last interview with one person will be with with Dello and Kane, and another final interview for another candidate will be with Harris and Blitzer. But they're supposed to be on the same page. Like, is an owner really not going to do a final interview with a GM candidate? And I, honest to goodness, think that they're just waiting because this was such a weird year and it's going to continue to be such a weird year that with so many firings already happening before the playoffs, there's going to be other firings that happen after the playoffs, especially with this 2014 format. And I think the Devils are doing their due diligence, and I think it's fine that they're waiting. Like, what the heck is a GM and a coach going to do right now? Nobody's really going to make trades right now. I know that they said the 7 teams that are out of the playoffs can make trades. Nobody's doing that. I think that the owners have their hands full, and they're also seeing other investments because they're very investment minded. They've done a really good job with the business side of things. I think the Devils are making a lot of money and they're worth a lot more, and they're moving up on the Forbes valuation list. So I think they're doing a good job with that. But I think that when it comes to hockey operations and it comes to even basketball operations, when you look at the 76ers, a lot of the moves they made seem to make sense on paper. And they're doing everything on paper. And, they're asking their people in charge to make paper moves. And we've seen it before. The Vegas Golden Knights went to the Stanley Cup in their first year after expansion. Hockey is not a game that's played on paper.
Yeah, and one of the things I actually admired about the late Ed Snyder was he didn't just own an investment in the Philadelphia Flyers. He was so passionate that he wanted to win, right? He was involved in day-to-day operations. Obviously, Joshua Harris and David Blitzer are great at their day jobs. No question. Because without it, you don't have that practically unlimited amount of resources to put a winning product night in and night out. But that hasn't really happened yet, right? So they got their first taste buying the 76ers, trust the process, which was just, okay, trust the process. But there was this whole controversy not too long ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, with the 76ers, you know, the possibilities of purposely tanking, right? A GM that was under fire, a GM that was all analytics. And, you know, and it's well documented, I believe I read it in ESPN, that, you know, the league stepped in, the NBA, David Stern. And suddenly you have the two Colangelos running the team. So, you know, that was a learning lesson. Now the 76ers are now doing a lot better. Contenders. Some would say that they're contenders. But basketball is a lot different from hockey. Hockey's really a team sport. 20 players. One that sits on the bench, you know, as a backup. And then on top of everything else, there's an e-bug lurking somewhere for a dream. So, you know, it is different. But Michael, hey, is that how you pronounce his name? Hi, hey, give back to the community, right? Ray writes, can we be honest? The Devils organization is an absolute mess right now. Harris Blitzer should focus on getting this organization in the right direction before buying another team. The problem with that, Ray, is they are in the mindset of making money, diversifying their portfolio. Right now, during this pandemic, money is very cheap right now, okay? And they are diversifying and putting in assets because this is what they specialize, buying distressed assets, gutting it, making it profitable, and then selling it for big money, right? That's what they do. That's how they bought the Devils, and they're great at it. So you have to respect that. But when it comes to winning, I think they're learning on the job right now, Nick. Mm-hmm. But, you know, you got to admire what they're doing. But at the same time, from a Devils fan and potentially a Mets fan standpoint, I don't like it. I want them to spend money all the time to the cap. Yeah. I don't care if we really need that guy. Just put him on a 1-year contract then. You know, so at least you can get out of a bad contract by just waiting the end of the year. But those are my thoughts. What
so like the Wayne Simmons philosophy.
What's that?
The Wayne Simmons philosophy. That's what they do with Simmons.
Yeah. So, you know, should be interesting. We'll see the same things, the same creativity. You know, you see a lot of the stuff that, as a Devils fan, that they were doing in Philadelphia that worked. And they would bring it across the river and have it done. I mean, it used to be when the new ownership group, now I can't even call it, when this current ownership group took over, they cleaned house of like the staff. They cleaned house. So the people that I knew that were originally there for 10, 20 years, even longer, that the Devils organization, they're gone, right? And they brought everybody from Philadelphia, top people that worked there. And again, from a culture standpoint, I don't know. It doesn't seem. It's just a hollow of the old team. I'm talking from a fan standpoint. Anytime I went to the arena, I saw Frank the Tank. They were working tickets. You remember Frank the Tank, Devils fans?
Mm-hmm.
Frank Calandrillo. And then, you know, his boss, the Terry Farmer, right? Suddenly she's gone. Everybody's gone. And if you're talking about the Mets, there's a lot of things the Mets do well. PR-wise, SNY, they do a lot of things well. I just don't want them to mess with the formula. That's all. That's all.
How do you feel now? Do you feel like you got it out, or?
Yeah, I feel I got it out. I feel like I'm going to get in trouble for saying all this. I kind of, you know.
Yeah, I don't think Blitzer or Harris are ever coming on the show. We sure can ask, but I think I don't think that they were coming on here to answer the questions that you have for them or that I have for them on the Devils or the Mets.
Trust me. I wouldn't be if Joshua Harris and David Blitzer came on. I wouldn't be like, hey, do you mind to loan us $35 million for this private jet that we want to take around, watch your team on the road? Because A, they probably be like, what the hell are you talking about? And B, if you're watching our team on the road, we're not making your money, so why the hell would we do that? They're smart guys, but I'll tell you what, I would give them the respect if they came onto our show. If we ever actually, I would actually give them the respect. I'd be nervous. I'd be really nervous because you say one thing stupid, you're banned for life at the arena. They'll just, you know what I mean?
They're not Dolan. They're not going to ban you. James Dolan would ban you. Blitzers and Harris. I think they're a little more new school mentality when it comes to media and when it comes to things. I think that they're more get ahead of the message, but if the message gets out, that's one thing I will say that's different. You talked about the change of philosophy after Lou left. I've never in my life, Sam, seen this many leaks from a New Jersey Devils organization. And I don't know how many of them are true. Yeah. This is beyond the Larry Brooks thing. The Peter Laviolette being the top guy for head coach candidacy, which I was told don't take with a grain of salt. He might still be the head coach, but take that report with a grain of salt. Just a heads up. But besides that, we found the 4 coaching candidates. We know everybody they interview. We know who they're interviewing for the GM candidacy. We know who they're looking to trade. We knew that they were looking at trading Kyle Palmieri before it happened. We knew that Taylor Hall, Tyler Kelly of Pucks and Pitchforks got that Taylor Hall was going to get traded that week, and he got traded that week. There was rumors, there was leaks going out about everything from arena songs to player personnel to the scouting team to hirings and firings to trades and signings, and this is not what we're used to. Even with Ray, when he first got here, the trade is 1-for-1, came out of the clear blue sky. And we were like, oh, we got another Lou on our hands, comes out of nowhere. And then it happened a couple times again where, our friend of the podcast, Dan Rice, was the first guy to get the Nikita Gusev trade. Got a good source, and he got to break that Nikita Gusev trade. Friend of the podcast, who felt really good for him. It's always good when the small guys get the big scoop. They get all the retweets and the credit. But again, the PK Subban trade kind of came out of nowhere. So it felt like we still had this, but then out of nowhere, this season it just all went to hell, and the Devils are in the headlines more often than any of the T. Friedman's thoughts all the time with legit information, not just like because sometimes it will give his opinion on something. No, this is like Elliot getting information.
Hey, Nick, just to let you know, your feed is a little choppy right now. I'm going to do some technical issue troubleshooting while we're on live air. But, let's see here. What people don't realize, Nick, is we do a lot. We do a lot with this podcast. Let's see here. Anyway. Nick, let me just explain what's going on with the audience. Nick just moved. He's doing his best. You just moved into a new house, got new surroundings, you got new internet, and for some reason, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So we're just, just like this new hat, this new headset. I just, anyway, I'm just stalling and just BSing. But yeah, sometimes it takes some time to work these little things out, which we're doing. And anyway, never mind, Nick. I think your feed is better. No.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
not.
I think
Maybe it is. Nope. Why don't you give me a? Well, let's show the audience kind of behind the scenes look. Give me a sound check. Count to five.
You want me to count to five right now? Like one, like
Yeah.
two? You want to count to five? Five, like the amount of the 1, 2, 3 New Jersey Devils Stanley Cups, and then 4, 5 that they'll win under the next regime, like that.
I think your feed is better now. I think your internet took a nap for about 2 minutes, and then, or it could be that dreaded Windows update that's happening.
That could be it, because I did a speed test on my other computer, and we're passing with flying colors on the other computer. But I'm going to blame T-Mobile. Can I do that? Is that going to get me in trouble?
No, but hey, Don writes, I'm confused. What's with the Mets talk? Don, where have you been?
Don,
where have you been? Don.
On,
Do you read do you go on the internet, read some Devils news?
Come on, Don. Do better,
God, Don. You know what? I'm gonna get our guests soon, but hey, I was looking at my soundboard. If Harris and Blitzer actually makes their way to this podcast, this is what I'll play.
Just over and over.
Yeah, just over and over.
We should start doing entrance music, and we can have theirs be. I don't know how many of you like wrestling, but just have it. Shane McMahon's entrance music is "Here Comes the Money," and it just talks about money for 4 minutes straight. We just play that for them. Here comes the money. If you watch wrestling like an actual normal American, Sam, then you'd understand that joke. But unfortunately, you're not with me on that one. Yeah, I guess this could work too.
You have won the rights to the New Jersey Devils. I'm sorry, New York Mets.
Sam, just before you get our guest, but we're doing a first time ever. We're gonna have our guest play you in the game, so that's gonna be a fun little wrinkle that we did to the podcast today. So, and guess what game you're playing, Sam?
What game what am I playing?
You're playing Supermarket Sweep.
What's that?
You don't know what Supermarket Sweep is?
No, not really.
Oh my! What, Sam? You have an assignment. You need to go watch Supermarket Sweep. It used to be on Hulu. I don't know if it still is, but if it's not, go on YouTube. Go after the podcast tonight and watch some Supermarket Sweep. One of the greatest game shows of all time. Great host, great concept, great food. It's supermarket. It's just a lot of fun, and it's one of those early '90s game shows where game shows were at their peak. We used to sit around the TV with the family, and everybody was playing the game shows. Now what we got is Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. And I will tell you this, Sam. I have not found a way. Oh no, I did. We did do Wheel of Fortune, didn't we?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm running out of game shows, but I'm gonna have to get creative. Maybe I'll go in the vault. If anybody out there has any ideas for a game show that I should transition into the game, I'm all ears. I am all ears. But Sam, you could go get our guest whenever you'd like, and I will.
Look at what Don just wrote. See, we do things live on this podcast, right? It says, this podcast is where I get my Devils news, LOL. Other than watching games, nobody can right now. And Cheryl Miller writes, Supermarket Sweep was so cheese-tastic, I think it's. And yeah, see, we do things live. See, we're live. We're not fake live. I was on a webinar. I was actually on a webinar the other day, and I actually posed a question just to be a wise ass, because it's basically, oh, we can record it live and then you can upload it and then stream it live later. I'm like, yeah, but isn't that? And I was like, but I want to do it live. Isn't that fake live? And then I left the webinar because I was like, don't waste my time. I only do things live. Anyway.
Doing it
All
live.
right, well,
We're doing it live.
Live. Yeah, we should get that clip. All right, Nick, why don't you take a step back, relax. You're going solo right now, and I'll get Alex, and hopefully his T-Mobile service will connect us.
Yeah, we're gonna have to fix the camera here because I changed it. Full disclosure, we were trying to do it. I'm right now. We're in the process of building me a little podcast studio in my garage, but I live in a house that's from like the 1920s, and we've had some trouble getting the internet to transfer through the walls. So right now, I had to just run into the guest room at the last minute. So our guest room's a little bit messy. This is a bed with nothing on it because we literally just moved in here, and we're not going to have guests for a little bit. So last on the agenda is putting sheets on the guest bed. But anyway, I'm very excited that it sounds closer and closer like the hockey is going to come back. We're going to be able to watch some hockey. We're going to be able to actually see some other teams on the ice. But obviously, I'm not too thrilled with the Devils not being able to play for months on end. So I did make a proposal. I hinted at, I think it was last week on the Let's Go Devils podcast, that I think that there's a way that we don't have to wait till January to see Devils hockey. I think if you finagle the schedule just right, I feel like you can have Devils hockey in November. What you'll have to do is you'll have to have a very slowed down schedule in November and December. And then you can have the teams that lose in the, whatever this is, the 24 team round, the play-in round. You could have the teams that lose there. They could play in November, or maybe it's the first week of December because they're going to have a long layoff as well. So you have the 7 teams that are out. Have them play each other from November 20th to November 30th. And you could have each team play 2 games in that time. Just spread it out, and then after that, you have the other 8 teams. So you have half the league playing the first 2 weeks of December, and then as teams get eliminated, you add more to the schedule. I have it all written out on pucksandpitchforks.com, so make sure you head over there. It's just an interesting way to get the Devils to play before January.
Well, yeah, I just heard parts of that conversation, Nick. I'm just pretending that, but I'm disagreeing with you. I don't know what I agreed to, but I made a rookie mistake off air. Total rookie mistake. I forgot to ask Alex, how do you pronounce his last name?
Well, we're live, so we're going to do another live thing, and we're going to say hello to Alex. And Alex, why don't you say your full name for us so we don't screw it up like idiots?
All right. So full name is Alex Chauncey.
Oh, okay.
Chauncey. Oh yeah, I screwed that up in the beginning.
All right, so let me redo that intro.
I've watched it plenty of times.
All right, Alex. So I'm going to redo the intro right now because we got to give you the courtesy. All right. Yeah, see, I made a rookie mistake, Alex, because we do things live. See, we could have edited it, but no, we do it live. So these screw-ups are real, people, because we do it live. So, all right, so on the Nova Product Design Hotline, we have Alex Chauncey of the HockeyWriters. Alex, you're talking with Sam and Nick. How are you tonight?
Pretty good. How you guys doing tonight?
Oh, we're doing well. We aren't Buffalo Sabres fans, so our life isn't as terrible as it could possibly be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into that in a second, but yeah, I've never seen anything like what happened with the Buffalo Sabres.
Let's not even waste any time. I know this is the Devils podcast, but we got to talk. I mean, this is the big story of the day, and this is just kind of making me feel better about how the Devils have dealt with the Ray Shero firing and the whole other situation where, the Buffalo Sabres give a vote of confidence to Jason Botterill and his staff. What was it, like 6 weeks ago, Alex? And
Not
6 weeks later,
even just 3 weeks, I think.
And literally nothing has happened in the past 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, we were still in a global pandemic, so we knew that we were going to lose a ton of money. 3 weeks ago, it was almost certain that the Sabres weren't going to make any kind of playoff format. 3 weeks ago, no moves have been made. No changes have happened around the league. And they still go, and not only do they fire Botterill, but they fire the AHL GM. They have fired all the assistant GMs. They have fired a lot of the scouting staff. They've just gone on a firing spree and just cleaned house completely. So, Alex, the real question I want to know is, does this make you feel better about how the Devils have handled their situation?
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about it. When I saw yesterday that they fired Botterill and it was pretty much, everyone in the front office, it kind of put things into perspective how the Devils situation could be so much worse than it is. I mean, I've never seen the amount of firings that the Sabres have made. I mean, they pretty much don't even have an amateur scouting staff at this point, and that's not something the Devils are dealing with right now. They're just kind of looking to replace the GM and head coach, whereas the Sabres are basically just starting from scratch and trying to figure things out, and it looks like they even have less of a sense of direction than the Devils do.
Yeah, and obviously Botterill did not make some of the best decisions. But honestly, I didn't hate some of them. I thought the Jeff Skinner deal was bad, but I didn't think it was going to go so bad off the top. I thought it was going to be one of those, like 3 years, 4 years down the line, it's going to be bad. So they've had a little bit of bad luck as well, but they never really fixed the goaltender position, which is something that could also be said about Ray Shero, where he never really got that goaltender position right when the team's forwards were right. So looking at the Devils situation and looking at the Sabres situation, who do you think is in better shape right now?
I mean, I know Devils fans might not believe so, but I definitely have to say the Devils are in a better spot right now. And it's not just when it comes to terms of the front office flux. I mean, the Devils have a much better prospect system than the Sabres right now. I can't remember who it was on Twitter, but someone said the Sabres have been rebuilding for 9 years and they only have the 17th ranked prospect system. So even if you were kind of hopeful you'd have some young kid coming up who you could put around Jack Eichel, they don't really have that, whereas the Devils they might not have a star player in their prospect system, but at least they got some pretty decent prospects like Yannick Kuokkanen or Nick Merkley. And then of course there's Ty Smith. But I think the Devils are in such a better spot right now, and I don't want to kick the Sabres while they're down, because that's just kind of rough what they're going through right now. But but the Devils are definitely I would definitely put the Devils ahead of the Sabres right now. I think you'd be more optimistic about their future than what's going on in Buffalo.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were kind of because the Buffalo just went right along and hired Kevin Adams as their new GM, and a lot of people were like, how could the Buffalo Sabres fire and hire a GM in one day, and the Devils can't fire and hire a GM in 6 months? I think that kind of just shows you, they've been through, I think, 4 GMs since the Picolos took over 9 years ago. And that's just kind of the culture there is, maybe if you did take your time. And, I feel like the GM is the most important position on your team, in the team organization in general. So if you're not taking your time with a decision like that, or maybe that's why they fired Botterill. I don't think that is, but maybe that is. Maybe they just really liked Adams. Although, kind of a jerk move. Adams' first day as general manager, his first task was to call people on the phone and fire 20 people on the staff. So, again, we're going to complain about Harris and Blitzer, but I don't think that they do something like that. Actually, me and Sam have talked multiple times before about how we think that Harris and Blitzer have shown to be at least decent guys. They've made a lot of decisions to pay the staff, decisions to donate a lot of PPP to local hospital systems, things like that show at least you can root for a good ownership in terms of, the kinds of guys they are. But Alex, I do want to ask you, we talked earlier in the podcast about the ownership group looking to buy the Mets. Quickly, what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that that's going to impact the Devils in a major way?
If they want to go buy the Mets, they're looking to make money, so go do it. But, they have a lot of, the Mets wouldn't be their second sports team. Most people are familiar, they already own the Philadelphia 76ers, and they've turned into one of the better teams in the NBA. I think people probably saw this too, but they purchased like a 5% stake in the Pittsburgh Steelers also. And they also have a minority stake in Crystal Palace over in the EPL. So I think they're just kind of trying to create this whole sports business empire. And if they want to buy the Mets, I don't think it would have too much of an impact on the Devils. I don't think that's something. I know a lot of fans are freaking out about that, but I wouldn't get too upset over it.
Yeah, the only big impact I could see is if they also buy SNY. But that 20-year pact that the Devils have with MSG, I think it still has a couple of years on it, so I don't think they could go anywhere anytime soon. But it would be interesting to see if they end up being a second or third banana on SNY, how that would impact how they're played. The Devils were they on the radio this year? I know that they were pushing radio.com, but it's kind of seeming like they just had to change a lot of the ways they present the broadcast.
Yeah, I can't remember if they were on anything like WFAN. I'm pretty sure they did digital streaming on iHeartRadio or something along those lines, but yeah, I don't remember them being on something like a local radio station. So that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. If they purchased the Mets, that SNY could kind of change how they're televised in the region. And SNY's got pretty big in the New York City area, so that could be a plus for them, maybe getting away from MSG. That way they wouldn't really be in the shadow of the New York Rangers when it comes to the media market.
Yeah, they are clearly the fourth banana on MSG behind the Rangers, Islanders, and the Knicks. So to go someplace, whether it's SNY, whether it's the Yes Network, whether it's something else, where at least they don't have to compete with other hockey teams. That'd be nice. But I digress. Turning back to the Devils, you and me have talked about just briefly about that Larry Brooks article showing that claiming that the Devils GM search and coach search has been kind of a mess, and there's a million Chiefs and just no Indians, So I want to ask you quickly, what is your opinion on that piece and what it showed for the Devils organization?
Well, it definitely wasn't good seeing that, and I think it's some people were, if they were already concerned that the process was kind of a mess because they still have an interim GM and interim coach months after they, fired the guys in the job beforehand. So it definitely wasn't good seeing that the process has been kind of a mess. But at the same time, we haven't really heard of that kind of discord before. At this time last year, people were praising Devils owners for kind of just giving the Cheryl the green light to go out and spend on, PK Subban and Nikita Gusev, and obviously they got Jack Hughes in the draft. So, and I guess you could tie it back to the Sabres a little bit before, but it goes to show what kind of difference there is in ownership between the two teams. If you look at what the Pagulas were saying after they fired pretty much everyone, they were saying stuff like our voices weren't being heard, and anytime you hear that as an owner or as a fan, you hear that from your owner, and they're kind of getting involved in hockey decisions, it doesn't leave the best impression. You've never gotten that kind of sense from Josh Harris or Dave Blitzer that they were kind of telling Ray Shero what to do So I think that's one way to look at it, I would think.
Yeah, the only thing that would worry me is that if you remember way back, I mean, this is January feels like 6 years ago, so it's hard to think back. But during that press conference, where they fired Shero, they did say that they wanted to build a win now culture, and that I know a lot of Devils fans kind of went up in arms, and I kind of got curious. I tend to try to look at things a little bit more maybe that's not the right word because people have seen my Twitter account, but I try to tend to be a little bit more informational about my thoughts on things like that and less reactionary about quotes because we have no idea the context that's going through their mind when they're saying these things. But, I know that a lot of people thought that meant like, let's, do things like sign Jeff Skinner to a $9 million deal. And, let's do things like trade our draft picks for, players that can produce but are on the second and third and fourth line instead of people that can grow with this team. So that being said, I know that a lot of the focus now is going to go to the draft. And with the draft lottery coming in a couple days, what are you first of all, what are you rooting for when it comes to the NHL draft lottery?
I've been kind of surprised on Twitter seeing people that they don't want the Devils to win the lottery, but I mean, this class is ridiculous. I'm rooting for them to get the first pick. I mean, how often do you get a chance to draft someone like Alexis Lafreniere? I mean, I know they've had the first pick 2 out of the last 3 years, but Lafreniere is probably the best prospect to come around since Connor McDavid, maybe Austin Matthews. So I'm rooting for them to get the first pick, and I'd be happy if they got the second or third overall pick too. Especially if they get the second pick, you take Quentin Byfield, and you're kind of building your team down the middle around Hughes, Heischer, and Byfield. I don't know how many teams would have a better core to build around than that. But yeah, I'm rooting for them to get a top 3 pick, and if they get the first pick, that's fine. I don't really care if people start comparing the Devils to the Edmonton Oilers. I think the situations are a little bit different. If the Devils win the first pick, it's not like they had the worst record in the NHL any of the times they won the pick. It was really just luck. Whereas the Oilers, I'm pretty sure they had the worst record 2 out of 3 years they won the lottery. So if people want to compare the Devils and Oilers to each other, that's fine with me. I'd rather take Alexis Lafreniere.
Yeah, I mean, sticks and stones can break my bones, but Lafren's going to bring a Stanley Cup, So, I mean, if that's the case, I'm okay with everybody calling us whatever they want to call us as long as we don't treat it like the Oilers did where they made a bunch of bad moves after they won those first overall picks. And, now Yakupov obviously was a terrible pick. Although that was a terrible draft. When you just look at everybody, there wasn't a lot of good in that draft. So, but they do have Connor McDavid, which is better than anybody has ever picked since Sidney Crosby. So I guess that balances out, the fact that Nugent Hopkins and Yakupov haven't turned out to what we were expecting. But at the same time, you're right. Everybody's going to talk. You're going to hear the Rangers fans talk. You're going to hear, the Flyers fans talk. You're going to hear all the fans. You're going to get people out of the woodwork who are complaining about the Devils and the lottery system and how it works. But you're right. It's not like the Devils tanked for 4 years and got these picks. They traded for Taylor Hall. They made the playoffs in the 4th year out of those 4 years, and then they went all in this year. It just didn't work out. So if they win the lottery after doing that, then I mean, so be it. I would love Lafreniere, but you mentioned Byfield, and I'm on the same page as you. I think if you get the second overall pick, you pick Byfield, and you kind of work the logistics around having too many centers later. I don't think I think that's a good problem to have 3 number 1 overall pick centers and kind of working around that and how that's going to work down the line. I think that they would just change the philosophy of how they play on the ice, and they would all work out. But the real question here is, what do they do if they get the 3rd overall pick? And you've been doing a lot on the draft. You've been doing a lot of studying, and I'm very curious of what you think of, there's Stützle, the German, and there's Jamie Drysdale, the defenseman out of Canada. both really, really good players, but or do you have maybe somebody else like there's 1,000 people, not 1,000, but there's like 6 or 7 people that can kind of surprise in that pick. Who would you go with if the Devils get 3?
Yeah. So if you've been following me on Twitter, like the last month or so, or just even reading some of the pieces I've been doing at the HockeyWriters, I love Lucas Raymond. I think he's the 3rd best player in this draft class. But it's not like there's a big margin between him and other players that would consider for the 3rd pick. But if the Devils got the 3rd pick, I would be taking Lucas Raymond. At that spot, he fills a need, and he'd be the best player available. And when you get a situation like that, it's just really tough to pass up on that. He's the type of winger. He's a ridiculous forechecker. He's an elite playmaker, and I think he'd just be the perfect winger to have around Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier for like the next 10 years. But I think you could also make that argument for Tim Stützle, who's probably the player who comes closest to being the 3rd best prospect next to Lucas Raymond. I just think at that spot, the Devils should definitely be going with a forward. If they get the 3rd pick, I don't think they should consider Jamie Drysdale that high. I know there's a need for defense, but the Devils' defense needs are a little bit more immediate than they are down the road. I mean, if you look at their prospect system, some of their best prospects at least are probably Ty Smith, Kevin Ball, and Riley Walsh. And I think they need more of a game-breaking forward than they do a high-end defensive prospect. So, Lucas Raymond or Tim Stützle there would probably be my pick. I think I'd also consider Marco Rossi. I know Devils fans are in love with Rossi, and they have every right to be in love with him. But it wouldn't be an easy decision for their scouting staff. But for me, I'm definitely going Lucas Raymond.
That's interesting. It's not a name I see a ton. I think it's because the Devils. Yeah. You think about 1, 2, and then you think about 6, and I don't think Raymond's gonna fall to 6. That would really surprise me if he did. So I feel like that's why a lot of people aren't talking a lot about him. But yeah, but I think that's an intriguing name. That's somebody that I'm gonna do a little bit more research on. I will tell you, just because, like I said, I haven't looked at it. I've been looking at that 6 number, that 6, 7, 8, and then I've been looking at 1, 2, just to kind of what would they do at 2? Because I know a lot of people are saying don't go with Byfield because position, or they have other issues with him. But I think that he's just the best talent at 2. Just looking at that spot, but
yeah, I agree there.
I've seen a lot of weird. It's weird to me. Maybe you're on the board. So let me ask you. I've seen a lot of people who were kind of rooting for Vancouver to lose and the Devils to get their 2021 first-round pick because it's unprotected and you can have a San Jose Sharks situation. But I personally am not a risk taker when it comes to draft picks. I would much rather have the asset in now, knowing that it's in the 17-ish range if they win one round and lose the second round. What's your thoughts on this? Would you rather get the guaranteed assets in the middle of the first round of a decent draft, or would you rather roll the dice, possibly get one of the top picks next year if Vancouver falls apart, if they lose Jacob Markstrom, if a couple things go wrong?
So I've gone back and forth on this. I think right now I stand at I'd rather keep the 2020 pick just because I think the way this draft is, there's a bunch of high-quality forwards in that first round that would really help the Devils out. But I can also see the argument of wanting it to slide to 2021 because then, maybe you get lucky where it's like the San Jose Sharks and the Canucks are not as good next season and the pick ends up being a top 10 pick. And then you could even maybe use that 2021 pick would be as trade bait during the off season if you're looking to acquire like an NHL-ready defenseman. But I think I'd rather pick I would rather keep it in 2020 also because not necessarily to make the selection there, but you could also trade down. They don't have second or third round picks, and it's a really deep draft. So you could get that Canucks pick at 17. You could trade down and maybe get some more assets and kind of keep building up your farm system. I don't know that much about the 2021 draft other than there's a couple of really good prospects, but I don't think it's the quality of this one as of now. So if you're more into like the whole building young talent thing, then maybe you want to keep that pick going, that pick in the 2020 draft.
That is one thing that I've also seen is that a lot of people are thinking of trading down with that number 17 pick. I've seen people who trade down into the second round to get multiple, second or third rounders. I'm a little bit wary of doing that just because we've seen the graduation percentage of people in the first round against people in the second round, and it falls mightily. And obviously, getting those people in the top 10 helps that graduation percentage. But even when you look at like 15 through 30, it's a much better percentage than maybe people in the second round. But what are your thoughts? Would you rather get multiple second and third round assets since the Devils don't have picks in those rounds this year? Or would you rather keep the first round pick? I mean, personally, what I would like to do is like maybe trade down to like 2021 for a team really wanting a player at 17 and then maybe getting maybe getting a third round pick on top of it. But what would you rather do? Would you rather keep the pick at 17 or would you rather, if say a team comes with 2 seconds and a third, would you rather take that deal?
I think it depends who's available at the 17th pick. When we did our mock draft at the HockeyWriters, Seth Jarvis fell to us at the 17th pick, and no brainer for me there. I'm taking Seth Jarvis if he's available at 17. So like, if that happens at the actual draft, it would be it would be difficult to pass up on someone like Seth Jarvis, or I can't think of who else would fall. Maybe Rhodey and Amirov is there at 17. I've heard the Devils might be interested in Amirov. So that'd be something to consider. And like you said, if they're trading down, I would try to trade down into the later part of the first, like somewhere in the early 20s. That would be my ideal scenario if you're trading down. But it all depends who's available because you don't know. Once you get past like the first picks of the first round, teams' draft boards change all the time, and someone drops unexpectedly or someone rises unexpectedly, like Maurice Sider did in the last draft. Things just kind of get wild there. So you just kind of have to feel things out and see who's there for you at 17. And if there's no one there that's worth taking, then yeah, trade down and see if you can get multiple picks to kind of build up your assets. Otherwise, if someone like Seth Jarvis is there, or maybe Jack Quinn, I think you probably have to make the selection at that point.
One player that I really liked with that 17th pick, but he's been taken a little bit earlier in some mock drafts, so I don't know, is Caden Guile, good defenseman prospect. Yeah. He has little offensive upside, but I think he can just shut people down. He reminds me a little bit of Hjalmarsson, now in Arizona, used to be in Chicago. I think that he would be a really good player at that pick. But just bringing that up real quick, the defensemen in mock drafts have been going so wildly different. I wrote an article like 2 or 3 weeks ago assessing every defenseman that the Devils could possibly be tied to in the draft, and I picked 8 of them. I went from Jamie Drysdale all the way to Wallinder, who I think that you've been high on. And since then, I've seen the Devils mocked to 2 defensemen that I didn't even put in that piece. So that would make 10 different defensemen that the Devils could take at that 17th pick. Let me just ask you why you think people are so wildly off the charts when it comes to defensemen in his draft. Why can't anybody peg down what order they're going in?
So I think outside of Drysdale and Jake Sanderson, who Sanderson even himself is kind of a controversial prospect, but like outside of those 2, I don't think anyone's really a sure bet. I've seen William Wallinder, as high as 14th and as low as 70th in rankings, and then there's a guy like Jeremy Poirier who has great offensive upside, but is just a massive project defensively. And then you got guys like Caden Gooley and Braden Schneider and Justin Barron who are kind of like safe picks. They have a high floor, but a low ceiling. Just basically the bottom pair guys or second pair guys at most. And then you have a smaller defenseman like Emile Andre, who's only like 5'9", 170 pounds or something like that, but you're kind of unsure what you're getting with him. He's also a bit of a project. That's even the case with Wallinder. That's why his rankings are all over the place. A lot of these guys are projects. They don't Like Wallinder's an amazing skater for a guy who's 6'4", 190 pounds, but his defensive work, he needs some work defensively too. So all of these guys outside of Drysdale and Sanderson have some kind of flaw that will make their rankings go widely. There's no like sure bet after that, and you're taking a risk on pretty much any guy you can get, which you don't always see with defensemen. And I think that's why people are just all over the place when you start talking about defensemen outside of Drysdale and Sanderson.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of Sanderson myself. I think that he's the biggest high floor, low ceiling guy. I think he's going to be a fine second pairing defenseman, and I just don't think that's what the Devils need right now. So if they took them with like the 10th overall pick, say if they get that Arizona pick and they take Sanderson, I'm going to come out of the draft not a happy camper, but it is what it is. Because it's this Devils team, I'm just going to assume that disappointment is on the horizon. But for now, I'm going to call in Sam Wu because, Alex, you were the first guest ever that we've also invited to play the game.
All right. I'm honored. This is great. I didn't know that. I knew I was playing the game, but I didn't know I was the first guest to do this.
Usually we have the Pucks and Pitchforks writers play Sam, but Sam's been on a losing streak, so I figured we'd change things up and kind of see what happens to a guy who's never played these games before. You're rookie to the games. So just a real quick, just to get you up to speed on how we do this, I will take a random game show that I picked, not out of a hat, but I'll go through the list of game shows and I'll pick one that, I'll think I can make a game out of. We've done Price is Right. We've done Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, Family Feud. We've done most game shows at this point. But tonight, I've picked Supermarket Sweep. Now, I learned during the podcast that Sam Wu has never watched Supermarket Sweep. Alex, have you watched Supermarket Sweep?
I can't say that I have, although I do know what it is. But I've heard of it at least. But yeah, I can't say I've ever watched it. So I guess it's a level playing field between me and Sam.
All right, you guys got homework. You both have to watch Supermarket Sweep. Go on YouTube, watch the show. It's a good game show. You guys, we're in quarantine. Let's spend some time learning about Supermarket Sweep. But anyway, I can't read that, Sam. I don't know what you're trying to show me right now.
But anyway, Michael writes, hope you win, Sam, but underdog 7.
Anyway, so here's how we're going to work this. So Supermarket Sweep is a game where you answer a trivia question, and if you get it right, you get to run through the aisles and pick out something that you think. So sometimes there's games where you have to pick out things that are specific, like they want a specific product, and other times they want you to fill up your shopping cart with things that are expensive. Okay? So how we're going to play the game today, I got 6 trivia questions about sweeps. The times the Devils have swept teams in the playoffs. So all of the sweeps that the Devils have done. If you get that answer correctly, you're going to tell me what aisle you want to go down. And then once you pick, basically you're picking a number 1 through 17. It's a random number. Once you pick that number, I'm going to give you the team that it is. It's all the years. So there's like 2000s on here, 2005, 2020. Once I give you that team, that year, I want you to pick the player that you could think of that is the heaviest. He weighs the most. So this is a lot of rules at once. So you answer a trivia question. Once you get it right, you pick a number 1 through 17. I give you what year team that is. You tell me the player that you could think of that weighs the most on that team. And then the person who has the best collective or the highest collective, basically the heaviest players collected of their answers, wins the game. Do I need to go over it again?
I think I'm good. I don't know.
Alex, if you're good, why don't you go first?
Oh boy! All right.
This is going to be fun.
So, Alex, here's your first question. What was the first ever time the New Jersey Devils have swept a team in the playoffs? Was it the conference semifinals in 1994 against the Boston Bruins? The 1988 division semifinals against the New York Islanders? Or the 1995 Stanley Cup finals against the Detroit Red Wings?
Oh, man. I'm going to go with the 1995 Stanley Cup.
That is correct. You get to run down the aisles and pick out an item. What aisle, 1 through 17, are you going to go to?
Let's go with number 7.
Aisle number 7, that is the... ironically enough, that is the 2020 Stanley Cup, the 2020 New Jersey Devils. Who is the heaviest guy you can think of on the 2020 Stanley or New Jersey Devils? Why do I keep saying that? Who's the heaviest guy you can think of on the 2020 New Jersey Devils?
Oh, man. I feel like I should know this since it's the most recent team. Miles Wood is pretty heavy, but I'm not sure. Is it him? I'm trying to think of their defenseman. I'm going to go with PK Subban.
PK Subban, that's a good pick. PK Subban comes in at 6 foot, 210 pounds. The only people who were in that range, Mirko Mueller is 210. John Hayden was 215. Heaviest guy, Mackenzie Blackwood at 225. But 210 is a good start.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
So, Sam, that means you're up. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Your question is, how many times in Devils history have they swept a team in the playoffs? Was it 3 times, 5 times, or 7 times?
Five times.
Sorry, Sam, that's incorrect. The correct answer is the Devils have only swept 3 teams in their history.
Can I name them at least, even though that's not part of the game?
No. You have to feel bad about yourself.
How come Alex gets a freaking layup question?
Your next question is a layup. I'm giving you the layup question next. It's fine. But here you go.
It's rigged.
Listen. The Devils' second ever sweep. Oh, Alex, this is your question. The Devils' second ever sweep came on the way to the 2000 Stanley Cup Championship. Who did they sweep in the first round that season? Was it the Montreal Canadiens, the Florida Panthers, or the New York Islanders?
Oh, man. I was only 9 years old.
It's the Hartford Whalers.
What were the choices? Is the Panthers, Islanders, and Canadians?
Correct.
I'm going to go with the Florida Panthers.
Sam, do you want to tell him?
No, because it's a layup. It's an empty net goal.
That is correct. So that means you get to run down the aisles. Alex, what aisle do you want to go down? Remember, you've already picked 7, so pick 1 through 6 or 8 through 17.
Let's go with number 17.
17, you've picked the 2006 New Jersey Devils. So let me just get over to the air. So that would be the 2005-06 New Jersey Devils. Alex, who is the heaviest person you could think of in the 2005-06 06 New Jersey Devils.
Oh man, that's going way back for me. I'm trying to think. Man, who was even on that team at that point?
It's a weird year because it was right after the lockout.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say, isn't that the lockout year?
Don't say Patrick Elias. I'm just giving you a hint because he lost a lot of weight.
No, I wasn't gonna say Elias.
There's some heavy guys on this team.
I want
to guess.
You don't get to guess.
Ken Clee was on the team. Ken Clee was pretty heavy.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Christophe Oliva.
All right, oh, Sam, you got your work cut out for you. Christophe Oliva weighs 245 pounds, 6'5".
That's a big boy.
Left winger, just massive. I think he was the heaviest guy on the team. I thought you were going to go with the easy one, go with Brodeur, just because the goalies are always a little heavier. But there's a bunch of guys on this team. Vladimir Malakov was 230. Victor Kozlov, 232. Just a massive team, but big pick by you, Alex.
Yeah, I'm
right,
going to go again because I saw Oliver Price mechanic. So.
No, definitely. But Sam, I'm gonna give you your layup. The Devils swept the Detroit Red Wings in the 1995 Stanley Cup. After that game 4 was over, who ended up winning the Conn Smythe Trophy? Do you need me to go through the options, or do you know it?
Wait, 95?
Yeah.
Is it a trick question?
No, who won that playoff MVP in 1995?
Claude Lemieux.
That's correct.
I finally got a question right. I'm
There
surprised
you
you
go.
didn't ask me how many. I'm surprised you didn't ask me how many eggs did Claude Lemieux eat at Game 4 before the Stanley Cup Finals.
I mean, that's clearly 6, but that's okay.
Okay.
Anyway, pick an aisle, Sam. What aisle are you going down on Supermarket Sweep?
I'm going to the candy aisle, aisle 7.
We already picked aisle 7. You got to pick another one.
Aisle 8.
Okay. Aisle 8 is the 2005 New Jersey Devils. So, wait, that doesn't exist. So we're going to go to the 1992 New Jersey Devils. So 1991-92 New Jersey Devils.
Who weighed the most?
Who's the heaviest person on that team?
91-92 New Jersey Devils. That's when Scott Stevens came onto the scene, right? In 91. And I remember there was a Rangers-Devils brawl, Game 6 at Brendan Byrne Arena. Now the question is, who was the heavyweight of that class? Now, I think that was the year Sean Burke didn't play. Sean Burke's a pretty big guy. So I'm not going to say Sean Burke. Or could I?
I wouldn't say Sean Burke. Because he's not even on the roster on reference.
Yeah, I mean, he was under contract, but that was... Now, Marty Brodeur was on that team. Played a couple games. You got Chris Terreri, Craig Billington. Huh. Was Randy McKay on that team?
Why are you asking
remember.
questions? Just give me an answer.
I'm trying. Hey, you're asking almost 30 years ago. I got to think about this because he had another layup of Christoph Oluwa. You're asking me, I'm trying to figure out which player was out of shape that year. Was Dave Brown on that team or Doug Brown? I forgot. Or Dave Barr, but he was probably skinny. Or Laurie Boschman, was he on that team? Oh, I don't know. Let's just say Ken Danico.
Ken Danico comes in at 215, so not bad. Not bad. To answer your question, everybody that you said besides Sean Burke is listed on the roster, but they were all pretty skinny. It was a skinny team overall, but Laurie Boschman was 185, Doug Brown 185, Randy McKay was 210, so that wasn't too bad. Brodeur was on the team. He was 220. I think he would be – looks like Brodeur is the heaviest player on this team. Oh, there was Bill Guerin was 220. Vyacheslav Fedosov. I should know that name. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why I said it like that. But he was 220. It looks like 220 was the most. So, all right. And it comes down to this, Alex. If you get this right, you probably are going to sweep the supermarket sweep. But if not, Sam's going to have a chance to take it. The Devils swept the New York Rangers one time. What year did they sweep the New York Rangers? Was it 2005?
It gotta be
2006 or 2008?
Was it 2006?
I just want to double check my work because
you got to double check that. Come on, he just won. Jeez.
So what aisle do you want to go down, Alex? What aisle would you like to go down on Supermarket Sweep?
Let's go down aisle number 1.
Aisle number 1 is the 2011, 2012 New Jersey Devils. Who is the heaviest person on that team?
Eric Bolton on
Rod
that team?
Pelly?
Yeah, Rod Pelly too. I'm trying. I remember Eric Bolton being on one of the teams around them. I can't remember if it was that Stanley Cup year. David Clarkson was on that team too, right? Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna go with David Clarkson.
David Clarkson came in at a paltry 207 for this team. This was a very heavy team. Bolton was on the team. Bolton came in at 227. Steve Bernier came in at 224. Curtis Foster came in at 225. You got Ilya Kovalchuk at 222. Nick Palmieri came in at 220. Ponikarovsky was 225. This is Bryce Salvador, friend of the podcast. He sits at 215. Anton Volchenkov was 220. And then Dino Zubris, 225. This is just a very heavy team. They were just sitting on people all over the place. But David Clarkson was your pick, 207. Sam, we're still going to ask the last question just for fun, okay?
Oh, okay. What score did blah, blah, blah get it on his SATs?
Yeah, this one's actually really hard, so it's fine. You were never winning. It's okay. I just kind of wanted to, I used this question to kind of stick it to Rangers fans because this was when I saw this. I thought this was astounding. The year that the Devils swept the Rangers in 2006, the Devils did it on the backs of special teams. They scored just a barrage of special teams goals. How many combined shorthanded and power play goals did they score in that 4-game series? Was it 11, 8, or 10?
All right. Since you're going to ask me a hard question like that, I'm going to go over. I remember that John Madden came out of the box and scored that shorthanded goal. So that's one.
That was a really fun one.
Yeah, that place was rocking. I remember it was a 5-on-3. Remember that? It was a 5-on-3, and they actually killed the 5-on-3. I know Ken Klee outscored Jaromir Jagr in that series, but I don't remember if that was on the power play. Ken Klee, one of the greatest defensive acquisitions in franchise history. I'd say 11.
That's correct. That means you get to go down the aisle, Sam. 11 is the right answer. Sam, what aisle are you going down? Now remember, 1, 7, 8, and 17 are taken.
13.
Lucky number 13. That is the 2009-2010 New Jersey Devils.
Who's the heaviest on that team?
Yeah.
Was Brendan Shanahan on that team?
He was not.
Okay.
I think he didn't come until, or maybe he came. What year was that? I don't remember what year that was. Was that 2009?
Oh.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I thought it was 2000.
How about
2009.
How about our good friend PL3?
Pierre-Luc Letourneur LeBlanc. I said, can you just say his name? I can't. Why do you make me say hockey names?
What, PL3? That's his name.
Okay,
He's a good friend of the podcast.
He came in at 210. Now,
That's
not
it?
terrible. Yeah, not terrible. But again, we had Nick Palmieri on the team, 220. I don't remember this player, Sam. This might be like a one and done. I mean, how many games did he play?
Mark Frazier?
No, I remember Mark Frazier. No. Andrew Peters played 29 games for this team.
Oh,
do you remember
I
Andrew
him.
Peters?
I do remember Andrew
Yeah.
Peters. Yeah, he
I
came
don't
from the
remember
Buffalo
this guy at
Sabres,
all.
I think. Yeah, I remember him.
But he was the heaviest on the team. He came in at a solid 240. But he also had Martin Skula, 226. Dinah Zubris was also on his team at 225. Rod Pelly only came in at a cool 200. But Kovalchuk, another player, this is the year they traded for him. He came in, 222. But Sam, unfortunately, the streak lives on. But that's okay, because next week, I feel like we have a special thing where I think you're facing a player that you're undefeated against.
Who's that?
It's me. But before we get into that, we do want to thank our guests. Alex, what do you got coming up on the Hockey Writers this week? What do you got for the New Jersey Devils fans you want to plug?
So actually, this morning I published an article on the Devils and how they've, under Paul Castrone, they've really gone into Europe. About half their draft picks have been European picks under Castrone, and I wrote about how the 2020 class is the perfect one to keep that trend going since it's pretty heavy on European prospects. I think early next week I'll probably be doing something on Jack Hughes' rookie season, just kind of reviewing that and going over why they sort of need to put him in better positions to succeed and why he's also going to be fine. And then, of course, I'll have some draft lottery stuff before the whole thing goes down next Friday as well.
Awesome. Well, we really look forward to reading some of that, Alex. But yeah, and once the summer gets going and we have more to talk about, we'll have you on again. But thanks so much, Alex.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really great time, especially at Supermarket Sweep.
We gotta play the games. The games are our bread and butter, Sam. We're killing it in the games, but you not so much. You got to get better.
Yeah, I gotta get better. Well, thanks, Alex. All right. Did I just cut him off?
I don't know.
Whoops.
Maybe he cut himself off.
It's not that I was a sore loser. It's just when you're in a funk right now, you just gotta start. I'm going to do something next week. So Vinny's filling in, right?
Maybe. I don't know. Either way, we'll talk about what's going on. But we'll definitely have Vinny on. But COVID-19 canceled my vacation, so I'm actually not going anywhere next week.
I got to deal with you next week. I was looking forward to Vinny.
Well, maybe we can do a 3-man pod. Maybe we'll figure something out.
Yeah, or maybe we should reach out to our good friend Stan Fischler. Maybe he'll join us.
I mean, it's going to be like 4 a.m. in Israel when we go on air.
Come on, Stan. It's show business. Get up. I'm just kidding. Ryan Mann writes, "You got ripped off tonight, Sam." Here, that's what he wrote. That's what he wrote.
I'm not gonna lie, Sam. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even have you going for the Claude Lemieux question. I had you going for the other one. So I had to switch the Claude Lemieux question to you because I was like, "Oh, these are all hard for Sam." So I didn't audible. I was like, "Oh man, I can't have Sam getting 0 and the other, our guest getting." We make the guest look good. Sam. You know that we make the guest look good, but I didn't want to make you look bad in the process.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, it's been a great podcast, Nick. What does Pucks and Pitchforks have going on in the near future?
Vinny, speaking of Vinny, he just wrote a really interesting piece about how the Devils dynasty should have a 30 for 30 done about it. And I'm going to talk to him. I'm either going to pitch him doing what the 10 episodes should be about and doing maybe a much bigger piece on that. But that's something we're going to be working on. I just did the 5 players we lost confidence in this season, just to kind of get something out there, get some content. I've been devout of content a little bit, Sam, because I've been, working on the house. We have the new house. And this is not a good background for me, so we got to work on that. But I'm going to have, I do still have the week off next week, Sam. So you're going to get content on content on content next week. And it's going to come in droves. I'm excited. Oh, and then Charlie Borges Jr. He took the owners to the woodshed this week. So make sure you give that piece some love. Go on pucksandpitchforks.com. Follow us on @PitchforkPuck. And remember, Sam, we're always looking for new writers. And I pay you out of my own pocket to come and write for Pucks and Pitchforks. So if anybody out there is looking to make a little bigger money, I'm not telling you you're going to make a lot of money, but you'll make $20, $30, 30, just to write a couple pieces about the Devils, and I'll get you some beer money. We'll get you on the Venmo, and we'll get you going. So let's go. Let's get some people on staff. Well, we already got like 12 people on staff. I'm just always looking for more. I always want more, Sam. I always want more.
Hey, you know what? Maybe next time you should write to Larry Brooks. Be like, hey, I pay people on Pucks and Pitchforks. You want to write for us?
I don't think I can afford Larry Brooks.
He's actually a pretty cool guy. Yeah, he's actually a pretty cool guy. I met him a couple times during the Stanley Cup Finals in 2012. I'll tell you some stories about him.
I definitely wanted to talk about him, but he never answered the email. But that's okay. I mean, people are busy. People got their own life. It's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to close out the podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining in the podcast. We should actually talk about the NHL Draft Lottery, because that's going to be huge, where the Devils fit in that equation. So
It could, and we've been talking about how it could go well, Sam. It could also go bad. We could end up with something like number 8.
Hey, it's better than nothing.
I mean, I guess. We went through hell this season, though. I want better than 8.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Nick and I, every Wednesdays, Pucks and Pitchforks blog. Go to pucksandpitchforks.com. Till next time, let's go Devils.